Hello and welcome to another video. This is Roland Gaia number 5. Today we're going to be building a bass sound. Kind of the a little bit of the like the Barry White big sounding bass. So I got little drums here too. So today we're going to use all 3 tones again, and we're going to build up this bass sound. This will be a good lesson in getting that wah-wah in effect automatically happening for you. So, as usual, we're going to take this sound, we're going to erase it, and we're going to build it step by step. So I'm going to erase, and I'm going to reset. Controls back to neutral. I have why I'm doing this on, you'll need to see the first Roland Gaia tutorials 1 and 2 to know why I'm doing this. I don't want to keep explaining this because it's getting too repetitive. I'm setting this up in a neutral setting. I set it up in a neutral setting so everything is showing what the keyboard is playing. And it's showing a sawtooth wave with nothing done to it. Today I'm going to be working an octave down on the keyboard. This is a bass sound. Some people recommend actually pitching down, but that doesn't really make sense because when we build this bass sound, we're only going to have about a usable range of 2 octaves, and then after that, it's going to begin to it'll sound pretty bad. So I'm actually just tuning this synth for the 2 octaves that I'm going to play of this bass. So that's going to be my main key, this C here, and I'm going to be building it off of that. Again, we're going to use all 3 tones. We're going to use a lot of this synthesizer again to build this tone, so let's get started. Now my first tone is going to be very simple. I'm going to use the simple sine wave. And about the only thing I'm going to do with it, you hear that clicking sound, it's because of these envelopes. It's such a fast release and a fast attack that you get a clicking sound. It's basically this sound here. So what we're going to do is give it just a little bit of an attack, a little bit of sustain, and a little bit of release, as if we're plucking an open bass string and we're not muting it. And because we're working with bass, I'm going to go ahead and do something I normally don't do. I'm adding the effect right away and doing the low boost. So that way you can hear this subtle bass sound a little better. So as I bring up the attack, I can get rid of that click. Now that attack's a little too soft for a bass. It doesn't sound plucked. But because we're going to use these other two tones, I'll get my plucking tone. I'll get a much more sharper attack on those. I'm just trying to get rid of that click. So I'm just bringing the attack up to get rid of the click. And that's about all I'm doing with the first tone. We're just building a sub bass to go behind the other two tones. So I'm going to do a tone copy to 2. And the reason I do a tone copy, even though I don't want this, is when I do a tone copy, that means these last settings I made for tone 1 are actually accurate for tone 2. If I didn't do a copy, this envelope here would not show up. It would be like going to tone 3 is untouched. That's not reflecting the envelopes that we just set. Whereas since I did a copy, it's reflecting these envelopes. That's the way the digital synth is. Whatever the last setting you made, when you go to a next tone, it gets all mixed up, or you can get mixed up because the last settings you made have nothing to do with this tone. So that's why I've been, all through these tutorials, been trying to remind you to set things back to neutral when you go to a new tone, so you can actually see what you're getting. So right now we can see what we're getting on tone 2. Tone 3 is untouched. It's just playing this sine wave here. And as you can see, it's not reflecting the amp envelopes. Now for tone 2, I'm going to switch waves to a pulse width. And now I'm going to switch to the high pass filter. Change by cutoff and resonance. They're about at both cutoff and resonance is about the 11 o'clock position here with a high pass filter. Now this tone, what I want to do is give it the punch. So the punch is going to come from these filter envelopes. As I push the key down, you can hear that booming. Here it is without the envelope. You just got the plain tone. But as I move my envelope depth down just a line or so, and I move the attack and decay up about 4 lines, I'm getting that boom. So I'm getting this big attack. And that's what I'm looking for in tone 2. It's kind of like giving a bump to this really soft tone. There's really no pluck in that, it's so soft. But now with these two together, the tone 2, that little bump really makes a big difference. There's the plain one, and now here's the bump. And the bump's coming from just envelope depth coming down a line, and the attack and decay coming up about 4 lines. And we're using a high pass filter with a cutoff and resonance around 11 o'clock. So now when we add these two, now we got the sub bass and we got the attack. Now we're going to add, for the third tone, we're going to add the wow. So I'm going to copy tone 2 to tone 3. I'm copying that because, again, tone 2 has these settings. So when I copy to tone 3, I visually get to see what the synthesizer is actually doing. Now for this one, I'm switching to a square wave. And I'm going back to the low pass filter. So now I'm looking for a brighter sound and a more of a wow wow sound, so I can get this wow at the beginning of the hit of the bass. And I'm going to turn the envelope back to normal or neutral. And I got my cutoff and resonance. Cutoff is at about 2 o'clock and resonance at 10 o'clock. But I'm going to add this additional 12 dB of slope. Big difference in sound. It extends the tone. We have a 12 dB and a 24 dB octave. This is the slope that the filter cuts off at. So with the longer slope, you hear more of the filter. Now for filter envelope, I'm looking to make this this wow wow sound. So I'm going to change my envelope depth. You have to change envelope depth to get to hear what you're doing in the ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. You have to move this to get the effect. So I'm going to bring attack and decay up again. You got to get. Let's start with the. There's the attack, decay. So now we're getting that twang. There's the plain tone. And here it is with a, as I pull down the, inverse it, envelope depth. this is the twang I'm talking about. There's just a plain tone, no character to it. I'm bringing the envelope down a line or two. As you bring this envelope down, envelope depth down, makes quite a bit of change. Even though we have very small amounts of envelope in here. Now when I release the key, you're getting a sound again. So let's match this envelope over here and watch what happens when I put a release on here. It goes away. Here it is, release off. When I release it, it's because there's a release over here. I get an extra sound on release because my release doesn't match this. And that's only on release. When you hold the key down until the tone completely decays to 0, of course the release doesn't matter. Release is when the key comes back up. Okay, so we got our wow wow now. We have our punch. Punch and attack, like on the string. And we have our sub bass. Now they're all together. And there we have our 3 tones, pretty much complete. Let's do a save at this point. That's a right, patch number, right again. Okay, and now we're going to add effects. This berry white kind of bass, I think really needs a lot of reverb. So we're going to start with reverb. Add reverb, and I got about 11 o'clock. We'll control 1 and level. We've already added the bass or bass boost on here, or what they call a low boost, which is just EQ. And we're going to add a delay to and the way we set the delay, it's going to enhance this wow wow. So let's go to delay. And on the delay, I'm going to use a 3 o'clock control 1, and I'm going a hard right all the way over on level. So here it is without. Here it is with it. Let's see, without and with. It's so punchy, it's peaking my level meters. It's such a punchy sound, it's going to sound great live, but you're going to have to use a compressor when you record this because it's so punchy. So let's start our drums. And there we have it. We're going to write this again at this point. So now we have effects, and we have, now for the last part, I'm going to add this key follow to tone 2 and 3. We're going to edit 2 and 3. Tone 1 is just that sub bass. We're going to leave that one alone. Now the key follow, you can use it as you play, or you can set it differently as depending on what kind of music you're playing with. The key follow can really change the way this sounds. So here it is at the key follow at the 0 position. If I want a higher twang, all I have to do is move it to the left. And there, that was hard left. Now I'm going to move it to the right, and it's going to get softer. So this key follow can really change the way the bass plays. So this key follow really makes a big difference. And there we have our Berry White bass today. Thanks for listening.